Adorable golden retriever becomes a superhero dog for doing this. We think that humans are the only creatures capable of empathy and compassion. Some people, however, claim that other species can be more compassionate than humans will ever be. For example, let's think about dogs for a minute. They are incredibly loyal and ready to do anything for their owners. In addition, they will show you how much they care about you, no matter what. There are so many heartwarming stories about dogs who rescued their families. But how many stories of an animal saving another animal have you heard? Well, this is one such story. Keep listening to find out more about this dog who saved another animal in need. Who exactly is the person who owns this superhero dog? Well, he's a man named Mark Freely, and he works as a personal injury lawyer in East Setoket, New York. Mark is an avid animal lover who is also the proud owner of two adorable dogs. One dog is an English golden retriever named Storm, and the other is a border collie called Sarah. Mark also enjoys the company of a small bunny named Speedo. Mark's love for animals appeared when he was just a little boy. He loves all his pets equally, but Storm is truly one-of-a-kind dog. As Mark says, he is the heart of the family. Storm helped Sarah to adjust to her new surroundings after she had been rescued. Also, he was so gentle and kind that he allowed Speedo to sleep on his back every now and then. However, his gentle nature also got him in trouble a few times. If you're still wondering what makes Mark so special, why he is different than all the other animal lovers, let me explain. Mark does pro bono legal work for local animal rescue centers, and he also fosters dogs for them. When it comes to helping animals in need, Mark is the one to call. Every time he takes a new puppy in, Storm is around to help him out. What a great team these two make! Every time Mark takes in puppies, they size Storm up. Since he's such a gentle and caring dog, the puppies become comfortable with him very quickly. They even start thinking of him as some sort of a plaything. For example, they constantly climb over Storm and nip at his ears. But Storm was understanding and he never got irritated or annoyed. Mark started learning from his dog and trying to become as patient as Storm is. Once he realized Storm gets along with other animals well, Mark came up with an interesting idea. He decided to adopt Sarah and was looking forward to taking them both out to the park. One of the first things he tried to do was teach his dogs to play fetch. Mark thought both of them would love it and that they would have an amazing time at the park. However, Sarah was a fan of fetch, but Storm not so much. Mark was surprised to see that his Storm, the most cooperative and helpful dog he ever met, suddenly became so grumpy. No matter what he threw, balls, sticks, or a frisbee, Storm refused to chase after them. Storm is a golden retriever, and these dogs love playing around. However, Mark thought that Storm could be an exception. Little did he know that Storm's instincts would pop up when he least expected them to. There was one thing that Mark and his dogs absolutely loved doing together. Storm and Sarah's favorite activity is taking a long stroll along Port Jefferson Harbor. Fortunately for Mark, this beach was very close to his home, and he noticed that his dogs loved spending time at the beach. He thinks that his dogs like this walking route the most, probably because they love looking at the boats. Since beach walks are something that all three of them enjoyed, Mark made sure that they go to the beach as frequently as possible. Even though the beach is near his home, it wasn't always easy for Mark to set aside some time to visit it. Because of his busy schedule, Mark would sometimes take the dogs to the beach only on the weekends. However, one weekend was very special. Storm behaved quite unexpectedly, and in a way Mark could never imagine. It was just another regular afternoon, and Mark was taking his dogs to the beach for their stroll. But then, something incredible happened. It was mid-July, and the weather was unbelievably hot. But this didn't bother Storm or Sarah. Despite the blazing heat, both dogs were very excited to go out. The ocean breeze was abundant, and it helped keep the dogs cool. Mark feared that the weather might be too hot for his dogs, but once they got to the beach, he was glad to see that the temperature wasn't that bad at all. The gentle breeze made things much better. Then, he and his dogs proceeded to their usual route, and they enjoyed watching the waves and the boats. It was such a majestic and calming scene which, unfortunately, didn't last for too long. All three of them were enjoying spending time at the beach on a sunny day. However, Mark soon noticed something unusual about his dog. All of a sudden, Storm started bounding and he got closer to the water. Mark was surprised to see Storm behaving in such a way, but he thought that his dog was just overheated. Sometimes, summers in New York can get a bit overwhelming. And to make things even hotter for Storm, he was a long-haired dog. Whenever Mark took his dogs to the beach, they would play around or walk on the sand. However, this time something was different. For the first time ever, Storm got very close to the water. Mark was quite intrigued. He was wondering what made Storm get so close to the water, because he had never done that before. Soon, Mark would see the real intention behind Storm's actions. Mark was closely observing his dog's behavior. He knew that there was definitely a reason why he was behaving in such a way, but he couldn't figure it out. At first, he thought that Storm wanted to cool down a little bit. However, once Storm jumped in the water, he started swimming towards something. Mark noticed a lump in the sea and realized that Storm was planning to get closer to it. He just hoped that the lump wasn't a dead fish. Storm and Mark had been buddies for a few years, and Mark knows all his likes and dislikes. So he knew that Storm had a big appetite and that he would munch on any meat whenever he got the chance. However, Mark worried that the fish might be poisoned or rotten and that it could make Storm sick. But it didn't take Mark long to realize that something else was going on. Storm wasn't trying to grab a snack at all. Storm was getting closer to the lump that lured him to the sea, and Mark still couldn't figure out exactly what it was. Since Mark didn't jump in the water, he had to wait for the dog to return so he could finally find out what the mysterious lump was. It took Storm a few minutes to get back, and he was carrying something in his mouth the entire time. As he got closer, Mark knew for sure that it wasn't a fish. However, he still couldn't figure out what it was. There was something else that Mark was worried about. Since Storm swam far away and he didn't follow him, he feared that his dog might get in trouble. The water could be too deep, and the thought of Storm drowning terrified Mark. He waited anxiously for his dog to come back. The only thing Mark could do was stand on the beach and hope that Storm would return safely. It would be scary for any dog lover to look at their dog jump into the sea. After all, you never know whether your dog is a good swimmer or what may be lurking underwater. Storm seemed to be quite confident and like he knew what he was doing. But still, Mark was afraid that something bad might happen to him, especially when he was swimming back ashore. He was carrying something in his mouth, and it definitely wasn't easy to swim like that. Mark was standing by the shore and waiting for Storm to get back. He grew even more worried after thinking about the object that Storm was carrying in his mouth. What could it be? Was Storm fooled by some garbage that was thrown in the sea? Did he waste his time and energy to bring a pile of trash to the shore? However, soon Mark was about to find out the truth. Storm was swimming fast, and it didn't take him long to get back to the shore. Mark was excited to see that his dog was finally safe, but he was also very curious. Mark wanted to find out as fast as possible what his dog had come back with. It turned out that all of his guesses were wrong. Storm wasn't carrying trash or dead fish. He actually jumped in the water so he could bring a baby deer to safety. Mark was sad to see the tiny deer because it was highly unlikely that it was alive. Storm would not give up on the baby deer. He would nudge it gently with his nose and try to help it by licking it on the neck. All of a sudden, Mark noticed the deer shivering. The poor thing was in shock, but it was still breathing and fighting to survive. Mark quickly called for help and Storm lay down next to the deer. He wasn't sure whether the deer could make it, but the fact that his dog wouldn't give up on it made Mark want to fight for its life. The baby deer was very lucky because Storm's owner was an animal lover and he spent his entire life helping animals. As soon as he noticed that the deer was in trouble, he called Strong Island Animal Rescue League. And after waiting for a few minutes, the rescue team finally arrived. They were equipped with nets and leashes and ready to help the deer out. The director of the group, Frankie Floridia, and his partner Erica Kutzing were also there. As they were waiting for the rescue team to arrive, Storm actually tried to help the little fawn. Thanks to Storm, the deer actually gained its consciousness even before the people from the Strong Island Animal Rescue League arrived. When the rescue team arrived, they helped the fawn wobble on its legs. Mark and his dogs watched it dart back inside the water again. Mark was so surprised by the deer's reaction. Even poor Storm seemed so confused. He couldn't understand why the deer ran back inside the water when he just helped it get out. However, there is a perfectly good explanation for this behavior. Deer are animals of flight. They're going to take off wherever they can go, Mr. Floridia revealed later in an interview. In a yard, they will smash through a wooden fence. The deer seemed calm at first, but after realizing that it was surrounded by some strange creatures, its animal instincts kicked in. Can you imagine being a helpless little deer who wakes up to 2 dogs and 3 humans? It would make us panic as well. Even though Storm had just come out of the water, he was not hesitant to run back in and help the poor deer one more time. What a brave boy he is. Luckily, this time, the animal rescue team was there as well, so there was nothing to worry about. Mr. Floridia himself took off his shirt and ran into the sea so he could help Storm out and save the deer again. The deer swam frantically in the sea, but had not swum past about 250 feet before these 2 brave rescuers managed to catch up with it. The deer was scared and it started freaking out when the dog and Mr. Floridia started trying to catch it. It became almost impossible to handle the deer. However, Mr. Floridia and Storm were up for the challenge. Unfortunately, all this effort resulted in a knee injury for poor Mr. Floridia. However, he was so happy that they managed to get the deer out of the water that he didn't even notice the pain. As soon as they got out, he handed the deer to Mrs. Kutzing. All this time, the poor fawn couldn't understand that all these people and dogs were trying to help it out. He was trying to fight them, and it was quite challenging to hold it down. The baby deer was constantly thrashing during the time Mrs. Kutzing carried him back to her van. Then, she laid it down on a soft towel. It was only then that the little deer started to calm down. Finally, when the deer was calm and rested, the rescue team gave it a closer look. They found out that it was 3 months old and that its species is a white-tailed deer. However, it was unclear how it got into the water. They assumed that the deer might have fallen off a sandy cliff and landed in the water. The only reason why it survived is because of Storm. This golden retriever became known as the superhero who saved the deer's life. After Storm rescued the deer, Kutzing and Floridia decided that they will hand it to Save the Animals Rescue Foundation so they could take care of it properly. The foundation gave the deer all the medical attention it needed immediately. A few days later, the fawn was in stable condition. He was drinking baby goat formula and had to be given some antibiotics. Because of the fall, it had a few injuries which needed to be taken care of. Unfortunately, the physical injuries weren't the only thing the fawn suffered from. It also had to deal with subcutaneous emphysema. Translated, this meant that the deer would need to recover for quite a while before the rescuers could return it to the wild. At that moment, the fawn wasn't ready to go back and handle the wild on its own. And when it comes to Storm, he became a media sensation. Everyone praised this good boy and called him a hero. What Storm did was truly remarkable, and Mark wanted everyone else to know how amazing his dog was. So he posted a video of the entire event on his personal Facebook page. In a matter of hours, about 5.2 million people saw the video. But this was not the end. Mark was asked to appear on TV shows with his incredible dog. Even the New York newspaper was in awe of his brave deeds. Mark was very proud of his puppy. "It was so touching," Mr. Freely revealed. "It showed he really cared and was worried about the fawn." And here are a few other brave animals that helped others in need. One tiger cub was born at the Strohen Zoo in Germany, and shortly after, its mother abandoned him for some reason. All of a sudden, one incredibly unlikely helper came to the rescue. Who are we talking about? Well, we're talking about an adorable and kind-hearted dachshund called Monster. He adopted the cub and, unfortunately, died suddenly. However, his daughter Bessie stepped in as a mother and things started going for the better. In this photo, you can see Charlie with a litter of cougar cubs. Similarly to the previous case, Charlie, a beautiful German shepherd, adopted these little cubs after zoo staff in Russia became concerned that their parents might turn aggressive. How did they get along? Well, as you can see in the photo, everyone is clearly comfortable and they seem to like each other's company. After a domesticated cat, Zoe, came across wild bobcats in an abandoned house, she decided to step in and adopt them. It didn't take long for the baby bobcats to get used to Zoe and form a bond with her. Zoe had kittens on her own, and all of them got along just fine. This was such a happy cat family. Zoe is such an open-hearted cat that is ready to help anyone. Meet Koa, a beautiful Labrador who lives in San Francisco. She's a 6-year-old dog who discovered 2 baby rabbits near her home. Koa was so gentle with them, and she took them in as if they were her own puppies. Believe it or not, Koa had never given birth, but her motherly instincts immediately kicked in. Koa is an excellent example of how caring and compassionate dogs can be. Joey is a poor kangaroo who fell out of his mom's pouch. Unfortunately, his mom was killed in a car accident, and the same thing would have happened to Joey had it not been for his special friend. The dog in this photo is called Rex, and he's the one who helped Joey out. He was quick, but also gentle enough to notice Joey and take him to his owners.